Hello, Johnny Horrorheads, and welcome to a long overdue episode of the Johnny Horror Podcast. Our latest discussion sees my co-host Kalen Behrman and myself discuss M. Night Shyamalan's 2021 mystery thriller, Old, based on the French graphic novel Sandcastles. The film sees a group of vacationing tourists finding themselves trapped on a remote beach where they begin to age at a rapid pace and must try to escape the devious paradise before they all perish. My apologies up front, this episode was recorded in early August and I really got behind on editing it. Nevertheless, I think Kalen and I have a very interesting and nuanced dialogue about this Twilight Zone-esque entry into M. Night Shyamalan's very eclectic filmography, and I hope you enjoy. Welcome back, guys and gals, to another episode of the Johnny Horror Podcast. I am one of your hosts this evening, Johnny Horror, and we are getting back on track tonight, ladies and gentlemen. After many, many months of saying that we were going to talk about this film tonight, we're talking about it. We made a quick pit stop from the Shyamalan verse over in Metropolis to talk about James Gunn's new Superman movie, but we are now jumping back into Shyamalanville. We will not be visiting his hometown of Philadelphia this time around. No, we are going to enjoy ourselves a nice little vacation on a remote beach. But I am not alone on this vacay. Oh, hell no. That's, you can vacay alone, but isn't it more fun with friends? And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I have one of my very best friends with me, as always, my co-host. Introduce yourself and tell me, what is the very best vacation you've ever been on?
What's up, everybody? Kalen Behrman, co-host of the podcast, resident handsome movie expert.
Yes.
Best vacation I've ever been on, huh? Chicago 2019 with Sandy.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that one. It sounded like a hell of a time.
That was great. Great time in the city.
You guys visited several delicious bars, right?
Great bars all over the city, man. Great bars. 3 Dots and a Dash is the coolest tiki bar I've ever been to.
Oof.
A great little faux dive that's actually an excellent cocktail bar with great food called Scofflaw. The Violet Hour, which is currently not in business but hoping to reopen at some point, the classic Violet Hour. Went to all the great pizza places, Giordano's Pizza and all that. Chicago's awesome.
What hotel did you guys stay at?
Oh God, I can't remember the name. It was a really nice hotel.
Love
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Love it.
The people in Chicago are so mean, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, those big cities. I don't think anyone's nice, like LA, Chicago, New York. I don't think anybody's actually nice in those cities,
It's funny because people say that, but in my experience, people are pretty friendly in LA. I have pretty good interactions with human beings in LA, and then when I go to other big cities, I'm like, wow, everyone here is mean.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
Probably because, you grew up in these parts, so, a little bit more down with the vibe of LA people as opposed to probably Chicago people or New York folk, as it were.
Yeah.
Best vacation I've ever been on, since I'm posing this question to myself as well. God damn.
It was Las Vegas with your buddy Kalen.
That was a great vacation for my bachelor party, man. That was fantastic. You gifted me with a wonderful bottle of Johnny Walker Blue, which somehow just this smidgen made it back with me, and I still have it. And It's just enough. I call it my apocalypse pour. um, but that was a fantastic vacation. I've had a couple of great adventures in Las Vegas with my boys. I- but I've had some pretty spectacular vacations with my wife as well. Not the least of which was when we went to Portland, Oregon to get married, and we also stayed at a very, very lovely hotel, and the accommodations were quite grand. We also had our wedding dinner there. It was as John Hammond would say, spared no expense. Quite a fantastic vacation. Portland is beautiful, and I would very, very, very much like to go back and stay there forever. Man.
Go back for a few
But
decades.
we are not talking about our vacations tonight. We are talking about the vacations of some very unfortunate folk in the 2021 film by M. Night Shyamalan, Old. Now, I made a boo-boo, ladies and gentlemen. We're just gonna get this out in the open. But to be fair, I think both Kalen and I did it. It was only Kalen that realized, uh, or at least told me a couple of days ago when I asked him if he was down to record this podcast with me that Old is not an M. Night Shyamalan original. And if you've been keeping up, all two of you would be like, "Hey, how dare you?" You would know that we were only covering M. Night Shyamalan originals, but um, I felt that we were in too deep, for lack of a better phrase, and that we had made promises to cover this film. So we will be covering this film. We will not be doing any other M. Night Shyamalan movies that are not originals. We will be rounding out our series. Our last movie, his first movie, Sixth Sense, will be the next film we talk about on this podcast. But all that said, I'm very excited that we got to cover this film specifically as opposed to something like Knock at the Cabin, because I do feel that this story is at least the concept is very well suited to Shyamalan's sensibilities. Maybe not the story itself as it plays out in the graphic novel, which we will discuss, but the concept of people aging rapidly and having to deal with those consequences is something that I could see Shyamalan coming up with um, on his own, as opposed to something more apocalyptic like Knock at the Cabin. Um, so, with that said, I'm very excited to discuss with Kalen tonight what an M. Night Shyamalan adaptation looks like and what are the pros and cons for something like that. But before we get to that, we are going to talk about some other movies because Kalen and I just love to talk about movies, and we've been in the Shyamalan verse for far too long not to try and discuss some other things. So, without any further ado, we are jumping into our first category, the Johnny Horror News. Here at the Johnny Horror News, we discuss a variety of topics. We talk about horror movies, horror news, and other movies and other news because Kalen and I are not just horror movie fans, we're movie fans in general, we're comic book nerds, so we like talking films. First and foremost, sir, there's a film that I wanted to discuss with you briefly. I feel like we'll probably talk about it more on this podcast at some point, but you and I both saw Weapons this past week. What did you think, sir?
Weapons is awesome.
Yeah, it is.
That movie ruled. And like, I I know most people like Barbarian. I didn't really like Barbarian that much. I thought Barbarian was okay. I thought I saw a talented director in there. Like I was like, oh, that guy's probably gonna do good stuff. But I didn't love Barbarian. I love Weapons.
I had fun with Barbarian. I think I went in people saying it was pretty great, and I went in pretty blind, which I think helped.
Mhm.
I knew almost nothing about that movie, so I was really able to enjoy what a wild ride it is. That being said, um, it starts off fairly grounded and gets just fucking bonkers.
Mhm.
Um, to a degree that there's stuff in the end of that movie that I find just completely unbelievable.
Mhm.
Um, but all that said, I'd say like 75% of that movie, I was like, hell yeah, this is a fun ride. And it's a fun ride overall. Weapons is on another level. It was a movie that I was hooked. The way the story is told, the structure, I love it. It has some Tarantino vibes to it in its structure. And for those of you who've seen the film, you'll be able to understand that. And um, more importantly, it has great characters, really, really good characters from start to finish. People that feel like people, um, and they're likable in spite of their flaws. And there are people that you root for, and there are people that you don't want to see die. And I think it also has a pretty spectacular villain. I know people have some gripes with the ending, and the ending is not like my favorite part of it, but I also very much feel that like when I sit and think about it, I don't really know what I would have changed about the ending either. I think it it's kind of perfect for what the movie is. Um, but we don't need to dive too deep into that right now. Um,
I don't have gripes with the ending.
that's good. That's
I
good.
recommend I recommend anyone who would want to listen to this podcast, I recommend Weapons to you.
Absolutely. 1000% go see Weapons. It's awesome. Anything else that you have watched since the last time you and I talked that you feel like discussing?
There's actually something I want to talk about. I went to the movies uh on Monday and
Mhm.
I saw a movie called Strange Harvest.
Mhm.
Strange Harvest is a recent horror film. It got a relatively wide release, I think like 1,000 theaters or something like that.
Yeah.
So not full wide, but a pretty wide release. Lower budget horror film. It is made in the format of true crime television documentaries. So you know how documentaries based on real
Yeah.
criminal events are very popular and in vogue today?
Yeah.
The movie presents itself when you sit down to watch it as if you're watching a true crime documentary television show. And that is the entire format of the movie. It doesn't break the format. That's the whole movie is like you're watching this, but instead of being about a real crime, it is a fictional horror story. Um, really smart way to make an interesting movie with a cool narrative on a smaller budget.
Yeah.
There is a little bit more to it than just true crime documentary. There's a
Yeah.
little bit more spice on there than that, but I don't want to give away what it is here.
Yeah.
But it was dope. It was a cool movie. If it's still playing in theaters when you hear this, I would recommend going to check it out in a theater. If not, it's the kind of movie that's absolutely worth watching on demand. And just gonna pull up the Rotten Tomatoes score here real quick. Sorry, I should have had
Yeah.
this ready.
No, no, you do your thing. This is, I mean, there's no point in burying the lead here. You know, a good friend of ours actually has a part in this movie, and uh, it's funny because this is something that I was pretty sure I just wasn't going to be able to catch in theaters, but it was also something I'm like, I know this is going to be available to stream, and I will 1000% do that.
Mhm.
as soon as it's available,
Mhm.
if it's not already, but it's on my list. Um, Pretty much for no other reason than I wanted to support my friend who has been trying to make his way in this industry for a very long time. And I'm very excited for him in that regard. But I happen to go on to Bloody Disgusting. I go on there, like once a day, check out movie news and stuff like that, and what's going on in the world of horror. And I trust most of their people on there, and they had a list of um, what was essentially movies that are coming out that we should be excited about for good ratings, good storytelling, and this, that, or the other. And Strange Harvest is one of them, and it's up there with weapons and Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein and stuff like that, which excited me that it was getting that type of buzz from, you know, passionate, dedicated horror writers. And it's from the director of a film called Grave Encounters that is kind of a cult hit among horror heads. I've seen the film. It is pretty freaking spooky, sort of like it was saw it a long, long time ago, but I do believe it's like a film of documentarians go into like a haunted institute and essentially get stuck in there. But it has some great, great scares in that, and I've heard that the villain in Strange Harvest is kind of a low key um, icon in the making. So that is also pretty exciting.
Yeah. So our good friend Matt Garcia has a role in the film, and he's also a co-producer on the film.
Yeah.
So that is what turned me on to it. That's why I went to see it. But it's currently holding a 90% Rotten Tomatoes score on 41 reviews.
That's solid.
Um, and I've seen it, and I like the movie, and I would not recommend it to listeners if I didn't think it was something you guys were gonna like. So it's something I really believe in, and I think that you guys should give it a try. My girlfriend, who is also a pretty discerning, she's a horror fan for sure, but she's a pretty discerning moviegoer. She liked it a lot for what that's worth, and she doesn't know this mutual friend of ours. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Wish the best of luck to all of them. I hope it does well enough that everyone connected to it is able to prosper and go on to bigger and better things.
absolutely.
Um, and myself, I just got into Alien Earth, which is something I've been looking forward to for a piping hot minute. The Alien franchise is, well, it is a toxic relationship of mine. Talk about highest highs and lowest lows. Honestly, if I don't count Alien versus Predator, like I'm I can find something to like about almost every single one of those movies. I know you do not share my feeling about all of the films, but you can appreciate, that we've had some really good stuff and some not really good stuff. I will say that from the episode and a half of Alien Earth that I've been able to watch, this looks like it has the potential to not just be good stuff, but to be the best stuff that we've gotten since the 80s. It is so fucking good. Everything that I've seen. Um, and again, we're only 2 episodes in, but the world building is magnificent. Um, they're not precious with the alien. We see the alien pretty much right away, which I'm like, this is actually kind of a breath of fresh air because I thought with all the other specimens that are in the this crash ship that lands on Earth that we would see all of them beforehand and then we would save the big bad for later, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So yeah, I'm very intrigued. I like what they're doing with the story. It's scary, which is pretty cool. And the production value is just wow, chef's kiss. Have you watched it at all?
Yeah, so I watched the first episode, and I'm super into it. I'm very excited about it. This was a show that I was really excited about ahead of time.
Yeah.
I believe in Noah Hawley a lot. He's one of those creatives that I have the utmost confidence that whatever he does is going to be interesting no matter what, and is going to be of at least decent quality no matter what. I think I told you actually way back when we went and saw Alien Romulus. We were talking Alien Romulus. I told you, like, my alien project I'm really looking forward to is Noah Hawley's Alien Earth. That to me is going to be the next special alien project. And this is coming from a guy. There are little bits of enjoyment to be had here and there throughout the Alien series. I actually, even like AVP, I think is a decent movie to watch as long as you're not paying too close attention to it. But I essentially think nothing since Alien and Aliens has lived up to Alien and Aliens. I think they stand alone as two great movies that have been followed by a complete by a train of shit. I think they have never gotten close to living up to those movies. Then it's been disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. I really, really wish Ridley Scott would find another way to spend his time. That said, I think this is going to be the worthy follow-up to the original Alien and Aliens from 79 and 86. I think this is the one.
Here's hoping, man.
Yeah.
I think we're off to a good start. So, and at least finally for me, I just watched right before we started this podcast. Actually, I watched a Universal classic. Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman for the very first time.
What'd you
It's
think?
fun. I had fun. I like old Universal monster pictures. You know, the sequels vary in you know how good they are. I think everyone can pretty much agree that the greatest Universal monster sequel of all time is Bride of Frankenstein, which is better than the original Frankenstein. But yeah, no, it's funny because there's this movie, little movie called October Sky that stars Jake Gyllenhaal. It was actually like his breakout role that I saw. I think I saw it in theaters actually when I was a youngster. It's a great movie. But there's a scene in the movie where one of his buddies is trying to teach him how to, you know, make a move on a girl in a movie theater. And he's like, you know, take it to something scary, you know, like Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. And ever since then, I've wanted to see Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. And so it's been, I don't know, like fucking 25 years, 25 plus years of me wanting to see this movie. And I made it happen tonight. So that was exciting in and of itself. And, you know, to see the two of them kind of go at it in the last, you know, 2 minutes of the film is pretty fun. And I think it is the first time that there's an actual like versus moment in at least
kind of the original one
in any, as far as like any big characters of that degree. That's the first, you know, monster team up, you know, what we would eventually get in something like Avengers.
Right. This is the original incarnation
is the start of that. Yeah. You know, Universal
I just want to say I just want to say really quickly, I love that your takeaway from that was that you wanted to watch this movie. My takeaway was take girls to scary movies. That's what I remember from that. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, that's why you're a ladies' man. By state law, you are still single. You're still playing the field, bro.
I don't know. I think common law might have caught up to me now.
Kicked in by now, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, shit. Anything else you are excited about that we haven't talked about already? I know we're excited for Black Phone. I know we're excited for Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Predator,
Badlands. Yeah.
Yeah, Badlands. Yeah, man, I saw a trailer when we went and saw Weapons. I saw the trailer for Black Phone 2 again, and I was like, fuck, man, that movie looks so fucking cool. There's a couple other ones. We saw a couple of good trailers when we were there, and my wife leaned over to me. She's like, "We got a lot of good stuff coming up." I'm like, "I know." I can't even think of what any of them are right now. But I know we have a promising couple of months going from basically
Oh,
August.
Shelby Oaks got a release date and a trailer.
Yeah, I saw that actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that
did.
looks cool.
It does
Looking
look
forward
cool.
to that.
I know. I remember you being excited about that. Like,
I
well,
backed that movie on Kickstarter.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
So you're like a
That's
producer.
yeah, I'm a producer. That's my formerly my kind of like my favorite film critic, who no longer is a film critic now. He just is a filmmaker. So
Yeah.
but I thought the trailer looked dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that too. When do you remember when it comes out? Does it come out this year or next year?
I think it comes out October. I don't want to say the date, but I think it comes out in October. I
Okay,
don't
cool.
want to be wrong. But yeah, I think this October it's coming out.
Sweet, sweet,
Should be
sweet,
the wide
sweet.
release.
Well, I love talking about movies with you, man. There's only one other thing I like doing more with you. That's drinking. Here at Johnny's Well, we talk about alcohol. Kalen and I are two baristas, ex-baristas, bartenders, servers. We do it all. We've done it all. We're really good too, believe it or not.
That's true.
Uh,
Yeah.
we're arguably better bartenders than we are podcasters. Actually, I certainly hope so. um, but what are you sipping on over there, pal? I know you always wetting your whistle with something. It's
This
got
is raspberry lime soda water from Soleil.
a
Yeah.
Soleil. Hooray for
Fantastic.
Soleil.
Hooray for Soleil.
That sounds pretty good. Raspberry lime, that's tasty.
Raspberry lime. That's a good combination.
How many other different cans of carbonated stuff do you have lined up over there? Don't lie to me. You've got like 6, don't you?
Don't lie to me, he says. You better not be lying. It's just a second one of the same thing right now.
Got it. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, I am drinking the same thing I was drinking last time we podcasted. I have myself a Polar Premium Seltzer, naturally calorie free, ginger lime mule.
I got to try one of those.
He
They're
did
very
come
good.
over and try them. Now
Yep.
he has tasted the Kool-Aid, ladies and gentlemen.
They're great. He's not kidding.
They are
Great
really
drink.
fucking good, man. It's really almost as much fun as drinking a Moscow Mule, almost.
Almost.
But speaking of drinking alcohol, Kalen, if you were gonna have all your pals come over and you guys were gonna reminisce about when you were younger and more lively and vibrant and not old like the people in the movie we're about to discuss, what cocktail would you serve them in honor of old?
So I'm just going with a classic dry martini.
Ooh.
And the reason I chose a classic dry martini was I wanted an old people cocktail.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted a real classic cocktail, and I wanted something that I wouldn't hate drinking. So a traditional classic real dry martini, if you walked into like a really good cocktail bar and you said, "Pardon me, sir or miss behind the bar, may I please have a dry martini?" What they would serve you is something close to 2 ounces of London dry gin, 1 ounce of dry vermouth, and that would be stirred, not shaken.
Mm-hmm.
If they have orange bitters, they might add 2 dashes of orange bitters to that, and they'd serve that up in a coupe or cocktail glass or a Nick and Nora, and they would garnish it with a lemon twist. And that is how I would also serve my dry martini.
That sounds fantastic, actually.
Also, it gets you good and drunk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
No.
Really gets the job done.
Like 3.5 ounces of alcohol will do that to
Yep.
you. Yeah.
Yep.
And yet people persist on having like 3 or 4 of those. Like, folks, come on, what are you doing to yourselves? Have some self-respect.
Give me your keys.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of having self-respect, I came up with the exact opposite of what you did. So I would be serving a drink called liquid marijuana, which
Oh,
has a nice hue relevant to about that part of the ocean water that you can see, or the background that I have going on over here. So what we do is we take a half ounce of spiced rum. Why not just make it Captain Morgan? We'll just say Captain Morgan. Half ounce of Malibu, half ounce of blue curacao, half ounce of melon liqueur. We'll just say Midori. We do an ounce of sweet and sour and an ounce of pineapple juice. And, all those things may sound like they make something that is, equivalent to a suicide from the soda fountain. But it's delicious. It is dangerously delicious. It's so delicious that my wife and I got the recipe from the bartender who served us shots of this, and we have proceeded to serve it at many of our Halloween parties in the years since. But it will make you feel very old the next day, and you will have many, many regrets from all of the mixing and high sugar content.
yeah.
Um, so I don't recommend it for the faint of heart, but if you want to have a good time, you want to impress your friends with a drink with a really cool name and a really cool color and goes down like, I don't know, a carton of ice cream on a Friday night after you just had your heart broken, that'll do it for you. Now that we're nice and liquored up, I have a tendency to get a mite peckish during a film. I like to have some snacks, like some pop, like some peanut M&Ms, like some other pop, some soda pop, and some popcorn. If I ever open the Johnny Horror Drive-In, the little shack where you get your snacks is going to be called Pop and Pop. That's neither here nor there. But Kalen, how do you feel about the film Old? Do you think it is an eating movie, or do you think it is just gross out and you should not be eating while you watch this film?
No, it's an eating movie. There's only a couple of scenes that are kind of gross, and they're a little later in the movie. So I think you're all set.
The actually eating is a big part of this movie, believe it or not. And in that sense, there's one part of the movie that I was grossed out by, and it was when a young lady by the name of Kara stuffs her face with pasta salad, and it's just like she's using her hands to eat it. And I found that to be quite disgusting. But, to each their own.
That did not bother me so much.
Yeah, well, I have this thing with watching other people eat, um, particularly in movies. Like, there's like a handful of times that it looks good. Like anytime Brad Pitt's eating, like I'm like, okay, I'm hungry. But like I have to like watch people eat like a hamburger or something like that. Like I don't like watching Sam Jackson eat the hamburger in Pulp Fiction, even though he's like, this is a tasty burger.
Mhm.
Like, I don't believe you. uh, Somebody else was eating that burger and you just started to eat it. I know that's a power move, but it's gross. It's gross. I don't like it.
I'm
uh,
here for you, buddy.
Thanks, pal.
Yeah,
Gonna need many years of therapy.
clearly.
But we're not talking about that. We are talking about our next category, which is blah, blah, blah. You've seen it all before.
What?
In this section, we talk about the plot of the film, discuss the movie's concept, and dive a little bit deeper into the production, the making of, as it were. So, as I like to do, I'm going to hand the plot off to my co host because he is so much better at summarizing than I could ever hope to be. So, Kalen, take her away.
The plot of the movie is a family, a struggling married couple, and their two children going off on an exotic island vacation where they are offered a trip to an exclusive private beach. And once they get there, they realize that there is something more sinister afoot. They are stuck there, and there's some strange things going on.
Beautifully put, sir.
It's a tough one to surmise without giving the whole movie away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you've seen the trailer and if you
That's true.
can have a general idea looking at the poster,
Yeah.
um, the characters begin to age rapidly. And we don't have to worry too much about not spoiling the movie because this is your spoiler warning,
Right.
folks.
Obviously, we're gonna spoil the whole movie
The
as
film
we always
shall
do.
be spoiled.
Mhm.
Um, can you think of a movie with this sort of concept before? Anything where it has to deal with people fighting uh age, rapid onset aging.
What about that movie Forever Young?
Ooh, that the Mel Gibson one?
That's the one.
Yeah, I guess yeah. I'm sure there's other movies too, but yeah, doesn't he like goes back in time and gets younger or something like that? God, it's been a long
No,
time
he
since I've seen
gets
that movie.
no. It's a rip off of Captain America. He's like a World War II hero who gets like frozen or whatever, and then I think then his age starts to just like rapidly catch up to his real age.
Ah.
I think I haven't seen this movie in decades.
Yeah, I
It's
was gonna
total
say
mumbo
I've not
jumbo.
seen it since I was a youngster.
Same.
Something tells me that the old age makeup probably not as good as it is in this one.
Probably not as
Um,
good as we remember. Yeah.
I will say that I do believe this to be there's other stuff out there for sure, but the way in which this story rather unfolds, I do find it to be fairly original.
Pretty unique.
Um, yes, which, as we will discuss, is one of the reasons that M. Night Shyamalan chose to make it. So let's dive in a little bit deeper. Haha, puns. Uh,
Oh,
to the production of the film. M. Night Shyamalan was first inspired to adapt the story of old for the big screen when his daughters gifted him a Father's Day present, which was the French graphic novel Sandcastle by Pierre Oscar Levey and Frederick Peters, which tells the story of a group of people trapped on a secluded beach where time seems to accelerate, causing them to age rapidly. The story explores the themes of aging, mortality, and the human condition as the characters grapple with their predicament and the passage of time. He said that as he began to read it, he immediately started to think about how he would shoot it because of how cinematic the story played out. Have you read this graphic novel by any chance, sir?
I've not. I'm interested in it though.
I am too. I did read the synopsis for the film or the story just to see kind of what the differences were. Um, Brief summary, more or less kind of the same thing. Family comes to the island, comes to the beach. They find a man by himself, and then a couple more families show up, and then same thing. They find a dead body floating in the water, dead body of the girl, and then the assumption is made that the man who is sitting on the beach may have murdered her, and then slowly but surely they find out that they're all rapidly aging. Similar things happen with teenagers, the youngsters who become teenagers. The teenagers have sex. They give birth to a child. The child does not die as it does in the film, but slowly but surely everybody dies, and the story essentially ends with the baby, as it were, now being like uh, a child left alone on the beach building sandcastles, um,
Jesus
which I
Christ.
think is pretty spectacular, actually. And
Absolutely.
I really really like the name. I am a fucking sucker for a title that more or less doesn't get revealed to itself until the end of a story. Fucking
Yeah.
sucker for it, man. So that is the source material. And Shyamalan, this I do believe he's coming off of, at this stage in the game, this is
2021.
2019. This comes out in 2021, but I do believe he started working on it
Hmm.
around 2018, 2019 is when everything was kind of falling into place. So, he's got a lot of his um he's got things like his crash and burn efforts of Avatar: The Last Airbender and After Earth, behind him.
Mhm.
But he has adapted stuff before. But I think that this is the first time that we find him adapting stuff that's a little bit more in his wheelhouse, I would
Mhm.
say.
Absolutely. He's also coming off of Split and Glass, which were overall were wins for his career, even though Glass wasn't as well
As well
received as he hoped it
received.
would be. But it made money, and
Yeah.
the Visit, Split, and Glass was kind of a 3-movie win streak for him going into this one.
Yes. Absolutely. So, Old marks the first film in Shyamalan's career to have no shooting take place or around his hometown of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. With an $18 million budget, filming began on September 26, 2020, and was shot on 35 millimeter film stock. What about that date sticks out to you?
You said November 26, 2020.
September 26th, 2020.
We were.
Yes.
Is this? What are you talking about? Like a personal life thing here?
No, I'm talking about
Okay.
like,
We were in the pandemic.
yes, there it is. That's
We were
that's
in
what
it.
I'm looking for.
Yeah, 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 very much so.
This is in 2020. Now, you and I have talked about how a lot of M. Night Shyamalan's features we have not been able to find a whole lot about because they seem to go off, filming seems to go off pretty smoothly from everything we can tell.
Mhm.
Not as much the case with this film. They began shooting during hurricane season, and parts of the set, namely, they built a giant rock wall. Part of the a good chunk of the rock wall that we see in the movie is real, but they did do additions, and that giant rock wall was destroyed by a hurricane. M. Night Shyamalan said this was the most difficult movie of his to shoot, stating that they would be out on the sand and in the heat for 12 to 14 hours at the mercy of Mother Nature. He continued saying that the tide would come in twice a day, and when that happened, you would lose half the beach, creating complications for the film crew's timeline when they were trying to knock out their shot list for the day.
Mhm.
He also stated that the film had to be shot in order because the film essentially takes place over one day.
Mhm.
So all their shots and everything had to be strategic in what they were shooting at what points of the day and leading up into the night basically, and how all that would come into play. So I imagine things like, the old age makeup having to be applied to these characters throughout the day would be fairly tedious, and trying to make sure your shots match up with the water coming in and going out.
Mhm.
um I imagine that could be kind of a bitch in editing.
It sounds
Not
like a logistical nightmare to
Yeah,
me.
that's that is the expression that was used quite a bit in the little making of feature that I watched. The film also shot during the thick of the COVID-19 pandemic adding another layer of complexity to the shoot. However, Shyamalan said that throughout the shoot, no one tested positive for the virus. He said that overall, it was all that part of it went pretty smooth. To help minimize further complications, Shyamalan storyboarded every shot for the film and went through it with the cast and crew. I imagine that coming off of a graphic novel, that's a good jumping off point for like ideas in your head for what a shot list would be. What do you think
Oh
about
yeah,
that?
yeah. I mean, I think it depends on what the material is. But
Mhm.
I mean, I think in some instances, if you're adapting a graphic novel or a comic book series, that can be more of a straight up adaptation than any other kind of adaptation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like not only did someone write a script for you, but they also storyboarded it for you as well.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Very much
They,
so.
they they gave you your shots, they gave you your angle, like they did the cinematography for you. You know what I mean? So depending on how faithfully you adapt it, yeah, I feel like an adaptation of a graphic novel or comic book can be um very very different than say like adapting a novel.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think a great example of a very, very faithful adaptation is you look at Zack Snyder's version of Watchmen,
Watchmen.
and
Yeah.
how there are just the entire scenes that are just frame
Panel
by
for panel.
frame.
Yep. Just
Yeah,
boom, boom, boom.
yes,
So,
1000%. When discussing the themes of the film, Shyamalan said that the movie is about seeing your children grow up so fast. That is the feeling that I wanted to capture. With that central theme in mind, it's fitting that Shyamalan's daughter, Ishana, was on location with the director and served as the second unit director on this film, shooting many of the nature shots we see in the movie. Ishana said that while she spent her life growing up on many of her father's movie sets, this was the first time she was afforded the opportunity to contribute to one of his films. When speaking of her father, Shauna said that any book he reads or any movie he sees ties into whatever project he's working on in that particular moment. A couple of questions here that I wanted to pose to you. First and foremost, how do you feel about nepotism?
I mean, on the whole, I don't love it.
Yes.
You know, as a person who wasn't born with a ton of privilege and connections and rich parents to just give me the opportunities to do whatever. Yeah, I don't particularly love nepotism. Especially, I think the older you get, the more you realize that people in most great positions in any field, there is almost always some degree of nepotism going on. Um, Not always, but very often, and I think that's a little bit of a disappointing pill to swallow
Yeah.
as you get older. That said, like, do I hold it personally against, say, do I hold it against Kurt Russell that he made sure Wyatt Russell got opportunities as an
Yeah.
actor? No, I don't hold it personally against him. Do I hold it against M. Night Shyamalan that his daughter is getting opportunities? No, I don't hold it against her. And it doesn't mean that she won't be great either. You know what I mean? Like, some of these Nepo babies are incredible
Yeah.
at
No,
what
I
they
mean,
do.
and it's
So,
that's I think I do think that if you look at it from a parent's point of view, it's like, why wouldn't I want to have my kid working on a movie with me if that's what they want to do? If they're passionate
exactly.
about it, of course I'm gonna have them jump on a set with me and show them the ropes. That's like
Right.
that's kick ass. And yeah, like you said, there's some incredible nepo babies out there, like
Yeah.
Jack Quaid. While I would say is not quite Dennis Quaid nor Meg Ryan, is very very good
He's
at what
good.
he
He's
does.
good.
You
Right.
know,
Just like
um,
Lily Rose Depp is good. Like,
yes,
she's
exactly.
good. Like you can't deny that she's good. So it's like it's hard to
Yeah.
be mad at that. Like Lawrence Kasdan had his son write solo with him, right?
Yeah.
As a writer, does it hurt my feelings that I don't just get my dad to be like, "Hey, write this giant budget movie with me. Here's your in." Like, yeah, that
Yeah.
hurts my feelings. I wish somebody would provide me with an insane opportunity like that. But like, am I mad at Lawrence Kasdan for it? No. And if his son does end up being a great writer, then he ends up being a great writer. You know?
Yeah. And I think that's the frustrating thing is that in in an industry that has become increasingly hard to get into, we
Right.
just see so many more nepo babies popping up, and you're like, I think that's the frustrating part, is that,
Well,
yeah,
when
you know,
I do dislike it when the nepo babies sit there and pretend like they're not nepo babies. That
yeah,
irritates me.
yeah,
I did like it recently. Jack Quaid was like, hell yeah, like nepotism is part of why I'm where I'm at.
yeah,
And he was like, it's really hard to break into Hollywood, no matter how talented you are. It's hard to do. And I had an in that other people don't get. And he was like, that doesn't make me not talented. That doesn't make me not a hard worker, but
yeah.
that's the reality. So I much more appreciate
Oh
that
yeah,
attitude than the ones being like, I don't know why people are calling me a Nepo baby. What's that got to do with anything? As
yeah,
if, you know, it has nothing to do with their success. So, yeah.
yeah.
What's that
Um,
saying? It's like you were born on third base and you think you hit a triple.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And what about this point here that she says any book he reads or any movie he sees, he ties it into whatever project he's working on in that particular moment? I want to know, do you find yourself, as a creative person, as a person who does writing, do you find that you get inspired by what you're reading, by what you're seeing? Do you use that as a jumping off point to try and further your own craft?
I absolutely think everything that you watch and read and listen to is fuel for your own creative endeavors. I wouldn't say that, like, if I'm working on project A and then I go and I watch The Shape of Water, that I will necessarily insert The Shape of Water into whatever project A is.
Yeah.
But I certainly think that the things that I read and the things that I watch are always sort of informing my perspective and um, in informing my creative process and just my basic inspiration for storytelling. Yeah, absolutely.
I feel very much the same way. I will find that, there'll be something, again, like what you said, it's not everything, but there'll be something that strikes me and be like, ooh, I really like that.
Absolutely.
Is there anything like that I could do, not rip off, but like I like what that makes me think about, and this makes me think about this. Now, how do I apply this to what I'm working on? Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you're just
Right.
like, that doesn't. We'll have to save that for another thing, you know.
Mhm.
Moving along, principal photography took place on location in the Dominican Republic at Playa El Valle Beach, with the exception of a couple scenes that were shot at Pinewood Dominican Republic Studios. Filming concluded on November 15th, 2020, Shyamalan having paid for the entire crew's 10-week stay at their hotel during the course of the production. Jesus, that last little detail I
Wild.
thought was something. I know that the last couple of movies uh, we have talked about, he, um, well, particularly in the actual timeline, as it were, things like The Visit and Split. Um, those movies he paid for himself, so
Mhm.
the man's got money. What can you say?
I mean,
Uh,
he put all that money on the line to jumpstart to re-jumpstart his career.
yeah,
Yeah,
very much so.
but he succeeded. He bet on himself and he won.
Yeah, he did. And that's some pretty good stuff.
Hmm.
And you know what other good stuff is? The good stuff in this movie, which we will
Hey,
talk about in our next section. The good stuff. All right, here we are just going to talk about the stuff in the movie that we enjoyed. Kalen, take her away.
all right. So my notes on this film are slightly more sparse than usual. Um, the first thing that came to my mind early in the film was, as usual, I like the way that M. Night Shyamalan writes kids. The little boy at the beginning saying, I do, thousand piece jigsaw puzzles, which is a considerable thing to do. And he's going around saying, "Hi, what's your name and occupation?" And it's that early bit there, and then the kid they meet at the resort, the kind of back and forth they have with him. I think that he may not write children talking exactly the way children talk, but I think he gets the idea of it better than most filmmakers do.
There's a certain bubbliness to the way kids are,
Mhm.
sort of just from one thing to the next almost,
Mhm.
without them even thinking about it. I have some notes later in regards to some dialogue stuff, um, with the child in particular. But I will say that I thought the little boy who plays Trent did a particularly good job. I thought he was a very solid natural actor. Um, I think that there is a great dynamic between um, Guy, Trent, and Maddox. There's a point when they're walking into the hotel room in the very beginning, and Guy's like carrying his suitcase, and Trent's like hanging on it basically, and Guy's, you can tell he's irritated, but
Mhm.
like he doesn't want to like spoil the mood or anything.
Mhm.
And he's like, I got it, like I got it. And then he gets it to where he's going, and he's like, thank you, thank you for helping. And that was, I've been in that situation where I'm like, son, why are you making this 10 times more difficult? I'm helping. Sure you are.
Mhm.
Um, and where there's frustration, where you're like, kid, you're making this hard. You can't be mad because it's your kid, oh, being loving with you. Um, and then the little bit where he's looking at the brochure, and then he says, "Oh, no kids in the beach."
Mhm.
And the kids are like, "What?" He's like, "No kids in the pool?
And
No
yeah,
kid." Like, sweetheart, what is this hotel that you
what did
picked?
you
And then
do? Yeah.
then they're all like wrestling and everything, and
Mhm.
and
And
there's
I
just
love how initially they believe him. Like at first
yeah,
they believe him, and then they figure out he's joking and they
yeah.
start attacking him. Yeah.
And it all kind of happens in the foreground, kind of out of frame, but they're like wrestling, and the way
Mhm.
he's talking to them, it all feels very natural. Like a way that a parent would play with their kids. And I liked that stuff quite a bit. Um, yeah, I thought that was all pretty darn good, and I would have liked a little bit more stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, I just have in quotations the word "damn." um, our boy Midsize Sedan says it quite a bit throughout the course of the film,
Yep.
and every time he said it, it got funnier and funnier to me. Um,
Yeah.
uh, I don't know. I got a kick out of it, and I also really really like that actor,
Aaron Pierre.
Aaron Pierre, who is going to be um, in the new Green Lantern show. Very
He's going to
excited
be
about that.
Green Lantern.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's John. Is it John Stewart? Is that what
Jon
it is?
Stewart.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Um, and he was in the absolutely spectacular Rebel Ridge. Watching him in this movie, I was like, "Fuck! I gotta go back and watch Rebel Ridge." Fuck, that is such a goddamn good movie. Holy shit, did I love that movie? But yeah, I really liked his character. And I thought he just has a presence,
Mhm.
charisma, and even though he is this like big hulking dude, he's I don't know, he plays he's very sympathetic.
Absolutely.
I very much feel for his character who is going through his own personal stuff that we don't know too much about, but he is immediately accused of murder, basically,
Yep.
and doesn't get much better for him from there. So,
Mhm.
what else you got for me?
Well, just expanding on that a little bit, actually, I think
Yeah,
Aaron Pierre is one of the best performances in the movie.
yes,
It's subtle. He's not doing a bunch of big dramatic stuff most of the movie, but he shows up and he says that they say he's a rapper and his name is Midsize Sedan, and obviously that is a joke in and of itself.
yes,
And I think there's a really good swerve there. I've actually seen people complain that the whole mid-sized sedan thing was very belittling, and that it's kind of stereotyping this character. And I thought that was interesting because just the way I read it was a complete swerve of that. I thought mid-sized sedan, the name was a joke about how silly the entertainment industry is these days.
yeah,
How we have these absurd characters. Like there's no person named Doja Cat, people.
yeah,
Like Doja Cat's not a real person. That's a character, right? I thought it was kind of a joke on, like, isn't it funny how musicians these days, entertainers, have these kind of made up silly personalities, but then when we get to know the guy a little bit underneath, you actually have this very thoughtful, intelligent, kind, and seemingly the most normal person on the island.
yes,
Like he's
absolutely.
like if everyone on that island, who would you hang out with?
Yes,
You know what
him,
I mean?
1000%.
Yeah.
Um,
So I thought he was actually a really cool character, and I
yeah,
think Shyamalan and Aaron Pierre both did a good job with that character.
I agree. There's no way that a rapper of his status would be his persona would be anything like who the guy is on that beach, you know?
Mhm.
You know, that his persona would be loud, boisterous, and, I'm the
Exactly.
man sort of a deal.
Mhm.
And when we meet this character, he is very kind of to himself, going through some serious stuff, and he
Mhm.
very much just seems like he doesn't know he doesn't want to be alone, but doesn't really have anyone that he trusts to be there with him. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where we find him in this very um divisive situation that he ends up in.
Mhm.
um I love the cinematography of this movie. I think it's arguably one of Shyamalan's best looking movies in a long time. I mean, that's not to say that there's been a drop in quality. I just think that when you get out in nature and you're on location, um, things just look good. You can point the camera in any direction and you're just like, fucking wow. But there are a couple of really great shots where, like, there's a shot that was featured pretty prominently in the trailer, and I think it's when Guy's starting to lose his sight, and it's just the way in which the actor is looking at the camera, the way the camera's framed. I think it looks good. I was watching a video about how Shyamalan broke down a scene, and he was talking. It was one of the scenes he was breaking down. One of the shots that he was breaking down was when the little kid is playing with the toys, and he's reenacting an argument that he's had, that his parents essentially had. And you had the robot here in frame, and then you had the mother in background, and the robot's talking. The robot's supposed to be talking to the toy doll that's right here, but you see the robot talking at the mother, and then it cuts to the other one, and the father's sitting here, and the toy
Mhm.
doll is talking at the father. And I thought that was actually pretty well crafted. And I don't know, man. I think it's, even when it gets to like nighttime and the dark scenes where you're not really seeing like the beautiful ocean shots and stuff like that, just mostly lit by the campfire. I was really impressed by um the cinematography, and that shout out goes to the cinematographer as well as M. Night for storyboarding this all, and being the man who says this is what I want a shot to look like, basically.
Mhm.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought the cinematography and the direction in this movie were really good, which is not uncommon for a Shyamalan film. In particular, I remember thinking the freeze tag scene
Yeah,
where we cut and she's frozen, and at first you think it's some major horror reveal, and then you realize the kids are just playing freeze tag,
yeah.
and the camera moves around as the children are playing freeze tag. Um, it's very like it's great. It's great direction. It's great camera movement. It's great blocking. It's beautifully shot the way the camera tells the story. It's really cool.
He elaborated on that as well, saying that like he wanted to start on Trent like Frozen, and he wanted
Mhm.
to, throw the audience off and then move into this very sort of chaotic playfulness with the kids, and have the camera movement mimic that chaos. So, you could tell that the frame rate's kind of sped up a little bit,
Mhm.
and the way it moves around, it has an energy about it that lends itself to youngsters running around playing in the sand, basically.
I thought it was great at that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
um I love the concept of this story. I really think it's great. um it feels it feels more like a Twilight Zone episode than I think any of Shyamalan's other stuff. And
Mhm.
I'm curious to see if I were to read the graphic novel, if I would have that same takeaway, or if
Mhm.
it would be a little bit more uh dour, for lack of a better word. Because it sounds like the novel ends on a not a too terribly hopeful of a note. But yeah, man, I was thinking about this movie a lot today in the lead up to this, and having just watched it last night, and I was like, man, it just feels like a Twilight episode to me. It feels like a lengthened one, but I could totally see this being played out in like shorter format, you know,
Oh
like a
yeah, absolutely.
black and white sort of 60s style,
Mhm.
um, sort of scenario. And I think it would work fairly well for that matter. But yeah, I really like this story. I like this idea that our characters really can't get off this beach, and they have to contend with getting old in a rapid amount of time, and what the consequences of that are. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a very interesting concept, and I think that they did a good job of bringing us along here, and I like the way that it was revealed. I actually thought the children age up reveal was excellent
Yeah,
because they didn't show us the new actors
yeah,
for like a while. They didn't show us the older kids for a minute, and it kind of just gave you the reactions of people
yeah,
like what the hell is going on, and then the big reveal with that. But that was very Twilight Zone.
yeah,
All of that.
very much so.
So yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I think the theme lends itself to all kinds of things that I guess I'll get into in a minute. But yeah.
yeah. And I mean, again, I'd be very curious to see how the graphic novel handles those reveals, right? Where
Hmm.
again, that Shyamalan's probably pulling from X, Y, and Z when he's orchestrating those scenes and how he wants it to feel. I
Yeah.
guess you're 1000% right. Just like that reveal specifically, like when we see the backs of their heads and they're talking to the nurse and the psychiatrist couple, you know, uh, what's going on there, but the suspense of waiting for the mom to come over and see what's going on. I think it was pretty well orchestrated scene, and it does make you just feel like unnerved because you know what's happening even before the characters do, basically.
Yep.
That's what I got on my end. So anything else on your end as far as good stuff you want to jump into?
Yeah. Just a couple things here on the cast. I just want to say we gave the flowers to Aaron Pierre.
Uh-huh.
This movie has two young actors in it who I am actively rooting for and have been. Um, The first of which will be Alex Wolff, who
Yeah.
plays he plays Trent for most of the movie, I feel
Yeah.
like. This is the young man from Hereditary, played the son in Hereditary,
Yeah.
in what should have been a career-making performance there in Hereditary. That should have garnered him a lot more success than it did. I really thought he was going to be everywhere as a character actor. Like I thought he was going to be everywhere. Um, and his career has not quite panned out that way. He was also in um, Pig with Nicolas Cage. He was in A Quiet Place Day One. He had a role in Oppenheimer, but for the most part, he has not done a whole lot since this.
Hmm.
And he's someone to keep an eye out for. I feel like he's one of those guys where, like, by the time he gets to his 40s, we're all going to be like, "Wow, what a great character actor! He's been all these great things." And
Yeah.
yeah, and then the other being the young lady who played Maddox for most of the movie, Thomasin McKenzie.
Yeah.
She had also had a big pre-pandemic role in the film Jojo Rabbit.
Yes.
She played the girl in Jojo Rabbit. She was excellent in that. And then she came out of the gates swinging with working with Shyamalan on Old. She worked with Edgar Wright on Last Night in Soho. She was the star of that movie. She had a small part in The Power of the Dog, and I thought she was gonna blow up and be like a leading actor type lady, you know.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't happened. She's continued working, but not on things that have had a lot of impact.
Yeah.
So I thought it was kind of weird to see both of their careers seemingly not go anywhere after this movie. And I just want to shout them out because I think they're both excellent in this film. I think they both give really, really terrific performances because they have to balance. They're playing a 6-year-old and like a 11-year-old
Yeah.
in the bodies of like teenagers slash young adults, and they kind of act like 6-year-old, 11-year-olds, and then as the movie goes on, they start to act a little bit more mature, like as if they're settling into their more developed brains.
Yeah.
Um, which is not an easy thing to do as a performer. That's a quite a task, and I think they do an amazing job at that. And yeah, I think they both just deserve big props for this movie. What do you think of those two?
I agree. There's a particular moment where, well, there's a couple with Alex Wolf specifically where he just reverts to like little boy,
Mhm.
and it's kind of heartbreaking. Um, I think the bit that really got me was when Guy dies and he just is laying on top of his body and crying and saying daddy. It felt very much like a 6-year-old boy who just watched his dad die. Um and yeah, when well, the kid goes through uh quite a bit of emotion in one day, having you know sex, and then having his child die, and then having the girl that he had sex with die not too long after that, um and the range of emotions that the actor has to deliver is nothing short of spectacular, to be completely honest.
Mhm.
And with the character of Maddox, there's a little bit more of a calm
Mhm.
to her character that is present through all of the incarnations of her, even when she's an older woman.
Mhm.
Um, and I like that there's this sort of baseline that she just is like the bigger sister who's you know gonna handle the situation.
Mhm.
And I love that she's like walking out in the water and she's talking about all the thoughts in her, or I think it's when her and mid-sized sedan are walking on the beach and she's talking about the colors in her head and how certain things were more colorful and now certain there's more things but they're less colorful. I thought that was a particularly good little bit of dialogue and performance.
Yeah,
altogether.
absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else over on your end?
Yeah, just the scene where their parents are truly getting old. The
Mhm.
final scene with the parents.
Yeah.
Um, I thought was a good microcosm of obviously what the whole movie's about. And as somebody who has watched adults in my life get old, watch adults who raised me die, um, and has watched people deteriorate, like watched someone you love deteriorate, and taking care of them changes, and your relationship with them changes as you have to take care of them, and sort of your relationship to the way you see the world changes. And I think it is one of many aspects of growing up that's one of the like real ones is going through that. And they just really captured it in a nutshell there in that short little scene. That those couple of actors with that little bit of dialogue just did a really impressive job there. And forgive me, I can't remember the father's name, but he says to his wife, like, were we fighting? And
Oh
she's
yeah, I
like,
love that line. Yeah.
yeah. And he's like, all right, well, whatever we're fighting about, I'm not mad about it anymore.
Yeah.
And there was also the psychologist who's trying to get off the island after her husband dies, says that she has an older sister she doesn't talk to anymore. And she says, now in this moment, all of that fighting feels really stupid.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I have not had too many moments like that, but I've had a couple of scary moments where I had that thought of like, man, like there's pettiness in your life. There might be people who you love who you don't talk to as much, or you might treat a certain way. And there will come moments where you will have those exact thoughts and feelings about how stupid and petty the
Yeah.
fighting and the arguing and the not talking to each other actually was. And this little low budget horror movie, I just think does a really good job of capturing that in a couple of very small, simple moments. So I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty cool.
I agree. I liked I specifically like the scene towards the end of the film with the two parents and um
Yeah.
the children, with them, and Maddox, asking her mom, Priska,
Yeah.
if she's warm enough.
Mhm.
And it's just like, not only is the old age makeup like really good where it feels very natural,
Mhm.
but the performances have like the way that the actors are moving,
Mhm.
and like the way that Guy's voice sounds when he talks is no longer this soft voice of this, very quiet, very polite 40 something year old man. It's this sort of gruff, old,
Old man.
70-year-old, 80 man,
Yep.
80-year-old man that just, what were we talking? I don't know. I don't give a, like, I'm going to go fart right now. Sort of a vibe that, um, I really appreciated, and that they have that beautiful moment of just like acceptance, basically a little bit before that, where the whole movie they've been trying to get off the beach, and then when they've kind of reconciled with each other, he looks at her and says, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, basically. Like, I thought that was a great little bit for the story and those characters, for sure. Is that all she wrote for the good stuff, my man?
I thought the ending was pretty strong.
Which part?
I like the resolution of the movie.
Okay.
Like I like them, the way they get out, the way they get back to that little boy who ultimately saved them. I like that part. The reveal of the scientists.
All
I enjoyed
right.
that stuff.
Good.
Yep.
Good stuff. Beautiful. Well, I suppose it's time we jump into our next category. The shit. All right. This is where I really get to dive into some stuff. So
All right, here we go.
yeah. Be gentle with me. All right. uh,
Never.
children using the word spontaneity. I have no patience for 6-year-olds using the word spontaneity. Fuck, I don't even think I knew what that word meant 10 years ago. I don't. uh, I am not the biggest fan of what I would call Mary Kate and Ashley style dialogue. You know, did you
Mhm.
ever watch Mary Kate and Ashley as a kid by any chance? Uh,
Yes, I didn't watch a
they
ton of
they
Full House, but I'm
they
familiar.
they had their little movies where there was like they had these little movies where they were like detectives basically, and
Okay.
they would go around, you know, figuring stuff out, and they talk like adults. I mean, they talk like adults in Full House, and they talk like adults in several of their other movies too. But like I'm like not the biggest fan of that, and I feel like there's a lot of kids in movies that talk like that. It I I Celeste was like watching it with me, and she's like, "You're taking notes already." This is like whatever it is, 30 seconds in the movie. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I know. It's very rare that I find something that I absolutely do not like the first 30 seconds into a film." But yeah, that definitely took me right out of it. It gets a little bit better with. I feel like he's not as much of that. He feels a little bit more like a little kid the further the movie goes on, but that word usage definitely, you know, took me out of it. That's that's my hill that I shall die on right there. But do you have anything that you would like to talk about, stuff that you don't like in this movie?
Yeah. Also, I want to say that on that one, I agree with you. I like the way Shyamalan writes kids, and you know, there are such thing as precocious children with wide vocabularies. I had a pretty stacked vocabulary as a little boy, and people would comment on like my use of, you know, very, you know, adult words, not just that I cussed a lot, but you know, um, and so that does exist. But like, no, you're right. Like 6-year-olds don't say spontaneity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You might find a 6-year-old who uses the word spontaneous, but they ain't saying
Yes.
spontaneity.
Yes.
Um, man, the parental conflict early in the movie just wasn't that great.
Yeah.
It just like for me, like watching that, like, and it's paid off well. Like I just said, I love the scene on the beach.
Yeah.
So I understand why it's present in the film as like a structural piece of the film. But as an audience member, just like watching that part of the movie early on and watching these parents fight, like I didn't like either of them at all, and I was not enjoying watching them fight.
Yeah, I when they first have their um I have a lot more to say about this the further along I go in my notes, so I
Okay.
will probably
Perfect.
elaborate in
Cool.
that regard. But I will say that at the beginning of the film, when they're having their argument um in the hotel room, and with their, I don't know why they're pretending like their kids don't know if their kids are like right in the other room either.
Right.
Um but I was like, this is odd. Seems like an odd choice for these characters, given that I have a general idea of what is about to take place in this movie, you know. It felt like and then I'm going to use this expression later on, but it felt like a hat on top of a hat when like they were talking about, oh, her leaving, and I'm like, oh, they must be having some sort of conflict, and then it was, oh, and then the sickness or whatever that they're hinting at too, and I'm like, oh, so they're like, what? They're like, she's got a serious illness, and they're getting divorced. I was like,
And they're
that,
divorcing, and for some reason the serious illness is caused extra conversation about the divorce. Then we need to know this for
yes,
why.
yeah.
Yep.
So I did feel that that particular thing was a little clunky, and then like you kind of hinted at, some of the stuff that happens a little bit earlier on the beach also feels a little clunky, and then even the reveal that not only is she sick and they were getting a divorce, but there was also another guy, like that also feels like, I'm like, we didn't I don't think we needed that. Like, um the idea that she didn't want to be a burden, when her daughter asked, "Mom, was there somebody else?" I was very much expecting her to go like, "No, no,
Mhm.
that's not what this is about." And then she went like this. I'm
Mhm.
like, "What the fuck?" Like, what type of person like does something like that? That are very wrong moves to make as a parent and a spouse. To, yes, I'm dying, and so I decided to have an affair. Sort of, mucky for me. Mucky for me. Um, yeah, I have. I definitely have several issues with lines of dialogue in this movie. Um, big part. The two big characters that I have the biggest problem with, um, are the nurse, Jaren, I believe, and the his wife, the therapist. They just say a lot of stuff that doesn't feel natural to me, doesn't really seem how people would talk. Like when in the little breakfast area where everyone's having breakfast and his wife goes into an epileptic seizure, the doctor, by Rufus Swell, comes over. Do believe his name is Charles in the movie. He comes over, and uh Jaren, the nurse, says, "Oh, she's having an epileptic seizure, blah blah blah. I'm a nurse. My name is Jaren," or whatever. And just the way that that line is delivered, like, I know his wife has seizures, and so he's used to it, but like, to like introduce yourself, I know what we're doing here, that Shyamalan's dropping breadcrumbs for, he says his name is Jaren, Charles says his name is Jack, and then he says, "Well, no, my name's Jaren, by the way," because Charles has some sort of dementia, some sort of mental issue.
Mhm.
But in the moment, it feels clunky and forced to me. I'm like, I realized the point of that conversation later on, but in the
Mhm.
moment, it took me out. I'm like, why would this guy be saying my name? I'm blah blah blah. I'm a nurse. Blah blah blah. And my name's Jaren. Like, and then later on, um, when Kara's pregnant and they all see her for the first time, basically, he says it very weird. He says, "If she walked into an emergency room right now, I'd say she's 5 months pregnant." I'm like, what? No, no one says stuff like that, man. You would
No,
say, "Jesus Christ, she looks like she's five
she
months
looks
pregnant."
about 5 months pregnant. That's
Yeah.
exactly what you say. It's like
So,
he had to remind the audience that the guy's a nurse in case we forgot if we weren't paying attention.
and again, I guess I can go into this full bit now, because this is all kind of connected. So I also don't like how like I mentioned before, his wife, the therapist, is constantly therapisting throughout the film.
Yeah, I know, right? As if therapists just
Exactly.
therapists at everybody all the time, and they don't just act like normal people. Like,
It felt very. I'm like, I don't think this is what therapists do. Like,
yeah,
I was like, well, okay, like,
I know it's not.
at first I was like, why does she keep on telling everyone to talk about how they feel? I'm like, oh, she's got to be a therapist, and then yeah, she's a therapist. And then the time when it really stuck out to me was like 30. She's still holding the dead baby, and she's like, maybe we should talk about how this makes us feel. And I'm like, I don't care I don't care if you're the most therapist ever. That's not what you say right then, in the heat of all this. Um, and
There's
that's
also
major.
a line where she says, "Let's not erase other people's experiences," and it's like,
Yeah,
That's something you'd say if you're sitting down doing family therapy with a family. It's not
yes,
something you just say to a group of people. You know what I
exactly.
mean?
In what is literally a life and death
Hmm.
situation, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And this is a major area where I think the film struggles is Shyamalan bringing his signature style and way of writing dialogue to a scenario where it might not play out as well as something like Sam Jackson hypothesizing about superheroes in the real world, or Mel
Hmm.
Gibson theorizing about the comforts of religious beliefs, how they bestow comforts on us during times of hardship and fear. Unfortunately, I think that M. Night's way of writing quirky and often funny dialogue, as we've talked about before, is in a good way. Um, Types of dialogue is not well suited for high stress, high hyper intense situations. So like how his dialogue is funny in lots of ways that we talk about, and something like Joaquin Phoenix's delivery of a lot of M. Night's dialogue is funny in a good way that suits that character in that scenario.
Hmm.
Um, or even in something with like Unbreakable, on how Bruce Willis will deliver a line that's very solemn, but the way the line is written and his delivery, it works, and it'll be funny, but it'll suit the world. And I don't think it works as well for high stress, hyper intense situations, as well as like what would work in fantasy stories like Lady in the Water or Split. It does not translate as well to films like The Happening or Old, you know? I think we talked about some major dialogue issues with The Happening as well, and I just feel
Hmm.
that his style of writing might not lend itself as well to these more apocalyptic scenarios. But then again, we get to something like Knock in the Cabin, and I do not really remember that necessarily being the case for that film either. So,
Hmm.
um, what are your thoughts? Do you have some issues? I mean, obviously you have some issues with some of the dialogue in this, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I do. I don't think it all works. I don't think it all fits or sounds very natural. It's interesting what you say about the "My name's Jaren" one, because I do think the only thing about that that's not realistic is giving his name.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, no,
he
that's
would
and
say,
that's
"My wife
that's
is having an epileptic seizure. I'm a nurse." Like you would say
yeah,
that.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
all good, but it was very specifically
Right. Hi,
him
I'm
saying
Jaren.
his
Like you
name.
wouldn't say that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I feel you, and I think that Shyamalan writes in a specific way, and he has sort of this quirky tone, and that's great. I think maybe he would benefit from sometimes on set letting his actors go off book a little
Yeah.
and doing just playing with a little bit of best idea wins,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I feel like as we all know, like the reason you bring writers to set is sometimes something that's great on the page, and
Yeah.
then the actors are saying it and they're just like, this doesn't actually work,
Yes.
and then you have to rework it. I don't, and I don't know Emin. I've never been on one of his movies, but I get the sense that maybe he doesn't do a ton of that.
Yeah.
He doesn't do a ton of, actually, it's not working. Say it different. How would you say it? Now
Yeah.
try it like this. Now try it like this. And just like trying stuff out. Because I
Yeah.
think that he could work through a lot of these clunky dialogue issues just by doing that.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
1000%. When this is writing dialogue is a hard thing to do, writing good believable dialogue, and good believable dialogue is not just for one character, it's for all characters and all different types of characters. So one person
I think
might say something that sounds believable, doesn't mean that the other person would say that same thing, you know?
exactly.
And
Exactly.
then
Not every character sounds the same. They don't all have the same worldview.
yes. And then it's also, when there's writing that in the script, and then there's the actor performing it. So it might
Mhm.
be right for the character on the page, but might not be right for the actor
The
performing the
actual
character.
actor.
And that's why you have to, like, particularly when I'm writing dialogue, when I've written stuff for myself or Brian's really easy for me to write for. I listen to Brian talk all the time. I know what he sounds like. I know what he would say, and that would sound believable. And then I have to write dialogue for myself, and I'd be like, this doesn't, like, I would say it out loud and be like, that sounds
That's not,
really stupid.
yeah,
That's
that's not
not
something I would say. Yeah,
how I would talk.
right.
And you have to find a way to get, okay, well, how do I get from point A to point B? And then there are other times when I wouldn't get dialogue right for Brian, and Brian would be fumbling over all of this stuff. I'm like, all right, just get the point across. Say it how you would say it.
Mhm.
Just whatever you need to say to make this get us to the next beat. Just do
Yep.
that.
Yep.
You definitely have to be willing to do that, because there's sometimes stuff does not sound like real people talking.
Right. Even if you have a great actor, like a great actor can only do so much with a line that doesn't work. Like sometimes it just doesn't work. It's
Absolutely.
nobody's fault. Like a great screenwriter and a great actor can get together and come up with something that just isn't clicking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Do you have other stuff you want to talk about in this film that didn't work for you?
I really could have done without the baby.
I agree. I agree for the movie that we got.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to elaborate on that later. But I agree with you, and I want you to elaborate a little bit more on why you feel that way.
It's very simple. Like just watching this film, and all the events of this film and the themes of this film, I just didn't need. All right, they're teenagers now, and what do teenagers do when they're alone?
Yeah.
And what is the
I
result
was
of that?
really hoping that it wasn't going to go that direction, to be honest. I'm like, oh,
I
guys,
was
can
too.
we please not do that?
That's exactly what I'm saying. I was like, I can do with that. I know what happens when teenagers are alone. I get it. I used to be a teenager. We didn't need it here, and we didn't need. And then the baby thing is like, I just think if you're going to invoke like a still pregnancy or a dying baby in a film, like I think there should be a really good reason.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, there didn't feel like there was some great story purpose to it. It just felt
Yeah.
like, oh, it's in the script.
Yeah.
And that it just didn't really work for me, and I didn't think it was really additive to the film, and it just kind of made me feel bad.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
was my thought. Um, and it feels, again, I keep on saying I'm going to elaborate on things, because I do have like a spiel that I'm going to go on later
Okay.
on. But again, in the movie that we got,
Mm-hmm.
it feels like it feels superfluous.
Exactly.
It feels like more sprinkles on top of a cupcake that's already covered in sprinkles. You're like, okay, what is this doing for the story at this point, other than giving poor Trent like that much more trauma, which
Right.
I don't think he really needs.
Right.
But yeah, it feels it. This is an area where, like, I feel certain stuff works better on a page
Mm-hmm.
and feels less exploitative, if that makes sense. There's times when you read stuff in a book and it's truly terrible stuff, but because you're reading it in your own voice, you're seeing it in your own head, and the writer may have written it, but like, you are taking in, reading it word by word, and you're kind of making that up in your brain. When it's shown to you, I don't know, man. When I see what it is essentially to like a 6-year-old and like a 4-year-old, 4 scenes back, and then they're teenagers here. I don't know, man. It just felt mucky to me, and I honestly didn't see anything on the internet about anybody else really having that. And again, it's not the worst thing
Well,
in the world, but I don't know, man. I just wasn't a big fan of it. And then yeah, they go through the pregnancy and the baby just dies. It's like, what's the point of that? You could have cut that whole bit out, and you could
right.
have saved yourself 10-15 minutes of that movie right there.
So what I would say is what I think the point was from a storytelling perspective is just that was sort of a microcosm of how sex and pregnancy happens. Is like
Yeah.
one day you're a child, and then the next day you're 16 and you have this functional equipment and these hormonal drives that don't make sense to you, really. Like, they're like, this is new.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
that was the point, was like to be illustrative of that part, because this movie is about life and the life cycle and development. And it's like, man, one day I was a 6-year-old and now I'm 18 and I have a kid. Like, what happened? I think that's what was the point.
And well, okay, see, in those terms, like, yes. If that was the case, I think they should have taken a page from the graphic novel and left the kid alive.
I think it's either or. They either should have left the kid alive or left it out of the movie.
Exactly. That
That's
is
it.
how I feel. That is very much how I feel. Because as it stands with the baby dying, that's what
Yeah.
makes me go, what is the point of that scene? You
Right.
know, because it feels, again, we could have hinted at that. You know, they could have even caught him like making out, and the parents been like, "What are you doing?" Like, just like, we don't have time for this. We knock that shit off,
Yeah.
basically.
Right.
But and then that could have been an even more interesting. You guys are children. This is, you can't be doing this. And they're like, no, we're uh, sorry, we don't know what happened. Like, no, you guys, because the parents are still going to see them as babies. There's just no way around that. You know, they
Right.
were babies, you know, 3 hours ago.
Right.
They're not going to see them any differently. You know, I think that could have been interesting conflict in place of murdering an infant.
Right. Yeah.
um, okay, so I do have some issues with the pacing of this film, and that could be an area of the script that is rough, or an area of the editing that's rough. Uh, More likely, it's probably a little bit of A, a little bit of B, but it seems like a thing would happen after a thing, like events playing out on top of each other. This kind of goes back to what I was saying about too many sprinkles on a cupcake. And I feel like the baby scenario is one of those things where, like, you get taking that out and you don't really lose too much drama. Um, then things will slow down a bit and we have some character moments. But a lot of the slow parts are not doing anything too interesting. Now, this is kind of where I'm gonna start to show you my hand of what I would have done differently in this movie. Right, the idea to have there be a marriage in peril is an interesting concept, but I feel like it pales in comparison, and more importantly, gets in the way of the far more complex and terrifying concept of seeing your children rapidly age before your eyes. As a parent, this concept is horrifying to me because you already feel like time with your kids goes by too fast. And if you crank up the dial to 100, how would a parent react to trying to keep their kids calm? And more importantly, how would you be able to share a lifetime of love in half a day? So, as a parent, we are constantly going, and I mean, you do this too. You look at your niece, you look at Killian, you go, where did the time go? How did they get so
Absolutely.
big? Um, you know, and this is something that we as parents feel tenfold. Like, what happened to my little guy who was walking around with his chubby little butt in a diaper? Like, I love that. I miss that. But then there's also this pride you take in this little child that you have in front of you. And yeah, I do think that that is and Shyamalan even said that that is the basis of this story, is seeing your kids grow up at a rapid pace. And I think if this concept took center stage and was the basis of this screen adaptation, you could use more of a ticking clock structure, something as simple as showing the time of day on the screen as it passes hour by hour, and the kids dramatically change each time an hour passes. You could feel the pressure of time running out and build a more sustained sense of suspense and fear. I think a simple tool with this is Trent's wearing a watch. Like, we see that watch on his wrist throughout the film, and that could just be, you could just use that as like a, oh, it's gone from 12 to 1, and the kids now are look a little bit different. The parents look a little bit different. I would use that sort of as a structure because I feel very much, and I don't know if you feel the same way too, but there'll be action and stuff will be a little scattershot and people will be freaking out, and then we'll just kind of like talk a little bit and it'll kind of slow down. Well, the kids are in the tent together, and then the parents are having a dynamic between them. They're talking about swimming around the thing, and then things will ramp up a bit, and then it I very much, and this could just be my more structured way of thinking, but I did feel that I was like, man, if there was just like a sort of to the whole thing, you could very much, oh my god, like every hour they kind of grow older and we can see it, and they're like, oh god, we're running out of time, like how do we, what am I supposed to do with my kids? And again, the focus being on the parents relationship with the kids, I think would build a little bit more of a stronger sense of what the film is about. I think if the parents were in more of a, a stronger relationship, then it could be more about them trying to figure out how to keep their kids calm, because I imagine the kids would be freaking out a little bit more maybe than what they do in the film, you know. And I
Mhm.
imagine, I don't know, man. I might be over. I'm definitely overthinking this, but I really was thinking about this a lot today. So, and this
Mhm.
is just kind of the stuff that was bouncing around in my head. Do you have any thoughts in this regard?
I mean that what all the stuff you're saying for me is a little over editorialized, but and I don't necessarily need the parents to be in a good relationship or not. To me, I like the theme of pettiness and what pettiness looks like when you have the perspective of time. But I think that what you're talking about, where you have the frustration with the structure, is I think that manifests a little bit differently in me. Whereas the way I think of it as a writer is that there's not so much events should lead to other events. So it
Yeah.
should be this happens, therefore this happens. And
Yes.
because of that, this happens or this doesn't happen, right? It shouldn't
Yes.
be, and this is a rule of thumb. This is not universal, but generally speaking, right? It should not be this happens and then that happens and then this happens and then that happens. And just
Yes.
stuff happened, stuff happened, stuff happened,
Yes.
stuff happened, stuff happened. There should
Yes.
be reactions and consequences and limitations based on the choices characters make and the things happening within the context of the story, right?
Yes.
So I think that what you're feeling is your frustration. That's how it manifested in me, was that thought, was that
Yes.
sometimes it just felt like things were just happening sequentially rather than like actually um as a consequence of anything else that happened.
Yes. I think that that is very well put, and I am so again thankful that you are much more eloquent with your words than I am, because that is 1000% what I'm my a big problem with this movie that I had was that it very much did just feel like, well, this happened, then that happened, then this happened, like you said. Um, and a lot of times it had very little to do with any character's choices, and consequences of their actions, you know. Um, 1000%. Thank you for that. Do you have anything else on your end that you would like to elaborate on, or anything that bugged you?
I'm sorry, just double checking real quick.
Yeah.
No, that's most of it. I mean, that's pretty much my feelings there.
Okay. So unlike you, I think when I watched it, it didn't bother me too much last night, but
Mm.
the more it sat with me, the less I was thrilled with the third act.
Mhm.
Um, I was not too much of a fan of the big bad corporation reveal. We
Mhm.
can call it that. It's I feel like it's pretty obvious. from the get-go that the hotel peeps are in on it.
Yeah.
Um, but the why rather was just not super interesting to me because it gets nipped in the bud like moments after it gets explained, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and uh, found myself. I also found myself going, "Oh wow, they're going to show how the kids escaped." So at the end, this new family shows up. The corporation's getting ready to try and convince them to go to the island, and then the kids showed up having been when we last saw them. They were Maddox was stuck under the coral, caught on the coral, and they were underwater, and they weren't sure if they were going to be able to get out. But they show up. We know that they got out, and uh, after they stop the bad guys, basically, for lack of a better phrase, they flash back to show that they got out of the coral. And I felt that that wasn't entirely necessary.
Oh, I thought that was entirely unnecessary.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought
that's
there was no need to show them getting out of the coral at all.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's why I was like, I literally what went through my brain is, oh wow, they're actually showing it. Like that's odd.
yeah.
Um, and it's also really the only time that we see our actors in a non-location. Like you can very much tell that that stuff was shot in a tank because
Mhm.
it just looks it's not terrible by any means, but it just doesn't look like it's the lighting doesn't match up with anything else, you know. So
Mhm.
that's just where like as a director, I would be like, I don't like, or as an editor, I would be like, yeah, I don't think we need this, man. Like,
Yep,
it doesn't look great and
yep,
it's not necessary to the story.
yep.
Then it cuts to black, and then we cut back to them in the helicopter for some last minute, not super great dialogue about like,
Mhm.
how would you feel if your 50-year-old nephew said that, you know, or is you talking to your 50-year-old nephew who's 6 years old or something like that. I was just like, ay, yeah, yeah, yeah. To let us know that our characters are gonna be all right when they would probably be fucking insane out of their minds. Like I cannot imagine that anybody who was 6 years old the day before is now 50 years old is just gonna be like, yeah, we're gonna be all right. We're gonna
Sure.
be all right. So I really think that like the best place to cut it is just like after they stop the bad guys at the hotel valet. I just like cut the movie right there. I think that's solid. The rest feels superfluous, and leaving some stuff to the imagination would only help a movie like this, I feel. Um, but how do you feel about that? And then I'll tell you about my pitch for how I think this movie should have ended.
Sure. I mean, I would have cut the escape also. And honestly, I think I would have also cut the helicopter ride. Like I thought that it
Yeah.
was not paced that well. I thought it went on too long. It did a little bit of a Return of the King where it's like, are we at the ending yet? Because it
Yeah.
feels like we're supposed to be at the ending right now.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. When I say that I like the ending, what I mean is I like the resolution. I like that they get out and they show us that it's this billionaire pharma bro who's ultimately doing this for profit, right? And there are scientists in the room, and they're telling themselves they're doing it for progress, which is what the
Yeah.
scientists in the room would tell themselves, even if it was because they're making seven
Yeah.
figures was the real reason they're doing it. And then there'd be a tech bro in the room who's like, there a pharma bro in the room who's like, hey, I'm doing this for profit and my ego, and I
Yeah.
don't care if I have to
Just kill
murder innocent people and
people.
children to do
Yeah.
it. And I like that because I just feel like that's a nice bit of uh, honest social commentary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean about the way that the pharmaceutical industry works in real life and the way that the people who run these kinds of companies actually think about and treat human beings.
Yeah.
And there was something that felt a little bit cathartic about a story about a couple of little children bringing down a bastard like that.
Yeah.
So I liked that part of it. But with regards to your complaints about like those two scenes, like, yeah, no, I'm with you. Fuck it, cut them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, so my pitch for how I think this movie should have ended, and this is again, this is me, this is uh, this is the movie we got, but again, this is me thinking about this all day, thinking about what I heard about the graphic novel, and this is just like how in a fantasy world, Johnny gets his hands on this movie and he tweaks it. All right, and again, this is for nobody's gratification but my own at this point. So, I would, like I said, I would structure it to where there's not as much friction between the parents and that it is much more about their relationship with their kids, and then the other families a lot more of the horror I think I would structure around stuff going bad with the other families on the beach and maybe them trying to attack the families and like people like losing their minds and stuff like that. I think it would really ramp up that way, and the parents trying to protect their kids. I would leave the baby alive and very much like the ending of the graphic novel. I would have it where like I would probably start the movie with the two parents like watching like Trent build a sandcastle, maybe like, like a little sandbox at the resort or something like that. And then I would end it with Maddox having died of old age and um uh Trent and Kara still alive, but like very old, like holding hands, watching their daughter build a sandcastle, knowing that they're gonna die very, very shortly after, and she's just gonna be left alone on the beach. I don't think I would have the the reveal that it was the pharma stuff in there. Maybe, I mean, if like the studio was like, hey, we need to know why this is happening, but I do like I would leave all the stuff in of them like thinking, seeing, feeling like they see a camera and stuff like that, and um that most likely that people at the uh at the hotel were in on it, but I think I would leave it just a little bit more vague. Some stuff to really keep the audience guessing, um, and leave it a little bit more open-ended, a la John Carpenter's The Thing. But anyways, that was very much what I was having go through my mind of like, well, okay, like you don't like how this ends, Johnny. What would you do differently? So,
Hey, sounds like a good movie, bro.
hey, thanks, man. We're gonna do the remake in 20 years.
There you go. That's the
Uh
plan.
well, I don't think we have anything else to do. And for once in a very long time, I feel like we actually have stuff to talk about in this next category. So let's get on over there to truly terrifying tidbits. Do you consider this a horror movie, Kalen?
Mildly horror adjacent, maybe.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, I wouldn't argue with someone who considered it a horror movie, but it's not like to me, it's not totally a pure horror movie
Yeah.
because there's just not that many. I mean, I guess the general idea of getting caught on a beach where you age super fast and die is a bit of a horror concept,
Yeah.
but it's not a very scary movie.
No, I think there's a vibe of there's dread, which I like in a horror movie. I
Yeah.
think that again, if we had a little bit of a different pace, a little bit of a different structure where there was sort of a little bit more of leaning towards the impending doom of it all, I
Mhm.
think that could have been a little bit more heavy. But again, this is Shyamalan here, and he does kind of go for scares, but very rarely does he leave us in uh, a, a bleak ending, you know?
Mhm.
Um, I would say it's suspense thriller.
There you go.
Um,
Yeah, it's more of a
uh,
thriller. It's more of a
yeah.
thriller.
And what would you say is the scariest scene in the film?
The lady breaking all of her bones.
Oh yeah, 1000%. That's fucking
That shit fucked
terrifying.
me up. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, and her like body like healing itself too, and so she's
Yep.
all contorted. Ugh.
She was just like, oh man, that's terrible.
Yeah. What a
Yep.
What an awful way to die.
Yeah, not great.
As Mr. Ray Fine says in the wonderful film 28 Years Later, there are many ways to die, and some of them worse than others.
That's right.
uh, well, you know what? 28 Years Later is a great movie that I think I would like to rewatch. And that is our next section, the rewatch. Really, really pulling for a seg there.
Good job, bro.
um, Here in this section, we discuss the film's rewatchability, some of our favorite moments from the flick, and rate its overall entertainment value. Um, Kalen, if you were trying to get some of your friends to sit down and watch Old with you and you were having a hard time convincing them, and you had to pick one scene to convince them to sit down and watch the flick, what would the scene be?
If I had a group of friends and I was trying to convince them to watch Old and they didn't want to watch Old, I'd be like, you know what? You're right, guys. There are better Shyamalan movies to watch. Let's watch one of those instead.
uh, that's fair.
I, I don't know, man. That's
I, dude,
this movie's a tough one. I'm sure you'll have a good one, but
I had a hard one, dude. I was having a really hard time. I was like, what
Mhm.
at what point would I be, I don't know what the scene is. I think really the best thing that I came up with as far as like the scene that I think would people would find interesting was the surgery scene. Like
Ugh, yeah.
when they pull out the tumor, I literally said, "Oh
No, yeah.
fuck."
Yeah,
Um
yeah. That's a good one.
so that that would be my YouTube scene. And it can be yours too. I
Yeah,
let you
no,
have
that's our
that.
YouTube scene. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite scene from the movie?
I think I like the beach at night scene, that ending scene.
Yeah,
The ending of that part of the story. Yeah, that's my favorite
yeah.
scene.
I very much think I'm on the same page. I thought it was very well written, very well acted. Those little bits of dialogue there, I thought that was good. Um, that and every time Mid-sized sedan says, "Damn."
Yeah. It's true.
Um, what do you rank uh the cameo of M. Night Shyamalan in this film?
I think it's I think it's a good one. I think it's fine. I don't think he does too much or anything like that.
See, I almost wish I watched this and I was like, yeah, this is kind of a lame cameo for him. I wish he was just the fucking nurse. I
Uh-huh.
think he would have done a better job, you know? I
Probably
was
right.
like, oh, just be that guy. You could
Yeah.
read your own dialogue better than that guy could have. No shade to the actor. I know,
Yeah,
I
no
know I've seen
shade,
him in
but
other stuff, but some people just cannot rise above
the
the
material.
script.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
1000%. And rewatch value. Do you consider this film insanely rewatchable? A yearly rewatch, a good time at the movies, take it or leave it, or one and done?
I think this is somewhere between a one and done and a take it or leave it.
Yeah,
Um, I having rewatched it just now for the first time in 4 years, I will be honest, it felt like too soon.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I was like watching it again. I was like, I definitely didn't hate this movie when I watched it. I enjoyed uncovering the mystery and I liked watching this in the theater. But um, at this point, and it is 4 years later, I didn't need to watch it again. So I don't think it has great rewatch value, all told.
I don't think it does either. I do believe, unless something comes across in my life where I am forced to watch it again, not forced, but where it lands in my
You have
lap,
a
and
reason. Yeah.
yeah, there needs to be a reason. So I do believe,
Yeah.
unless a reason presents itself, it is probably a one and done. Like you, I
Yeah.
enjoyed unraveling the mystery, but I think if I were to ever go back, to the world of old, it would be a la Sandcastle, the graphic novel. So,
They, same, bro.
yeah.
Same.
Well, that about does it for that. So, let's get this show off the road with our final category, the Johnny Horror Score. In our final category, we talk about the response to the film, its reception, how much money it made, and give our overall thoughts and rankings. So, response to the film. Old grossed 48.3 million in the United States and Canada and 41.9 million in other territories for a worldwide total of 90.2 million.
It's a
Not
hit.
too shabby for a film made on an $18 million budget.
Yep, that's an outright hit.
On Rotten Tomatoes, the film has a 50% rating from 344 critic reviews, with the site's consensus reading Old has no shortage of interesting ideas, and writer director M. Night Shyamalan's uneven execution will intrigue or annoy viewers with very little middle ground between. On Metacritic, the film sits at 55 out of 100 from 53 critic reviews, with audiences on CinemaScore giving the picture a C plus on an A to F scale. The film's cinematography and premise received praise, while it received criticism for its screenplay and dialogue. Wendy Ide of The Observer said the film's exposition felt ponderous and mannered, and asked, if we can't believe the characters, how are we meant to accept the film's central premise? Other reviews complained similarly, with one saying Shyamalan has not grown any more skilled at writing dialogue over the years, and another noting that the film's premise was interesting, but the plot was confusing and may have been better explored as a television series. Do you have any thoughts on any of that?
Anytime someone says something needed to be a TV show instead, I assume that they're just not super bright.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure sometimes it's true, but that always just feels like such a weird cop out to me. Like, oh no, you needed 10 hours to tell this story. No, you didn't.
I I
No, you didn't.
I think this story needs to be shorter, not longer.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This did not need to be a television series.
Right.
No, I mean, I think that most of the criticisms of the movie are pretty fair and pretty um feel like they're made in good faith, like they're honest
Yeah.
criticisms. Yeah.
Me too. This is one of the times where I felt like it did not feel like Shyamalan being attacked so much as just like, yeah,
Right.
I mean,
So it's like the movie's
it's
flawed
there.
and
It's a
people
movie.
talk
Like, you
about it.
made it,
Yep.
and the problems that the film has are problems that these people have had with Shyamalan stuff
Mm-hmm.
before, So very much what kind of the Rotten Tomatoes consensus is: either you're with it or you aren't, basically at this
Mm-hmm.
point. All right, pal. Well, go ahead and tell me your final thoughts and give me your ranking for Old.
I mean, I think Old is fine. I think it was I enjoyed watching it the time I went and saw it at the movies, just fine. Like we already said, more of a one and done movie for me, um not Shyamalan's. He's done some really good work, and I don't think this is one of those. I think this is one of those more of just kind of the kids like to say the word mid, and
Yeah.
to me, this movie's kind of mid. It's funny, like Rotten Tomatoes said, you're either with it or you're not. I don't really fall into that. I think that there's a lot of good stuff to this movie, and I think that it's ultimately an okay movie.
Yeah.
That's where I land. So, yeah. I don't know, maybe like a 6 out of 10.
Yeah. That's fair. 6
Mm.
out of 10. There's a lot I like about this movie. I love the look of the film. I love the artistry at work in terms of the cinematography, the lighting, and the shots that were crafted based on the imagination of the director orchestrating the creation of the picture. What Shyamalan brings to the table in terms of storytelling, pacing, and dialogue, not every single line or story beat, mind you, but as a whole, simply does not work for me. The strongest element of the movie for me is the story. The concept of a remote beach that traps people and does something to their bodies that causes them to age rapidly is fascinating, truly terrifying, and a unique exploration of the human condition. And I just don't feel as if Shyamalan was up to the task in terms of being true to just how scary that idea can be. In the hands of a more diabolical filmmaker, the likes of Ari Aster, perhaps, I think this story could have truly soared. With all that said, I am glad Shyamalan's kids gave him the gift of Sandcastle because it inspired him to go out and make this movie, without which I would have not been introduced to this incredibly creepy, eerie, and overall thought provoking story. 6 out of 10. So that is a solid 6 out of 10 for Old from the Johnny Horror Podcast. Kalen, one final question for you, sir. If you were going to feature Old at the Johnny Horror Drive-In and it was going to be a double feature, what would be the other movie that you would put with it?
This is a hard one. Mad Max Fury Road. Something exciting after this relatively slow movie. I'm gonna say Exorcist 3, which should properly be titled Legion,
Yeah,
because it's a good, creepy movie about old people.
that's good. That's good. That's a good pick.
Yeah, that's my double feature.
I was very much going the similar route, trying to build. I was like, what is a fucking good, like, scary movie about old people?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, The Visit would be good.
Yep.
uh, like that actually make a pretty good
Oh,
double
that's
feature.
that's actually a pretty good
Yeah.
call there.
But I very much landed with another body horror film. Last year's Demi Moore starring The Substance,
There you go.
which I think is more in keeping with the themes of fear of getting old
Mhm.
and kind of what you would do to turn back time. So uh, you start with old and then you you end with the substance for sure.
There
And
you
you
go.
just leave that drive-in feeling real good.
Yeah, yeah. What a great drive-in double feature, man.
Oh man. Well, holy shit, we did it finally. Knock this one off the chopping block.
Yep.
It's definitely been on there for a minute and a half or so now. I think, with the exception of After Earth and uh, The Last Airbender, this was the only one of his movies that I hadn't seen. So,
Okay.
and then whatever his super duper first movie was before.
His pre-studio movies, yeah.
Yeah,
Haven't
before
seen that
Sixth
either.
Sense, but yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't seen that. So it was cool to knock it off the list. So thank you guys for being patient with us on getting this out. I know we jumped the gun uh, last time and we did Superman, but we were really, really, really excited to talk about that movie. So um, looking forward, we will be talking about The Sixth Sense and we will be done talking about Shyamalan movies
At least for a
until the
couple of
next
years.
one
Yeah.
comes out. Um, God damn, dude. You know, I was thinking about when I was walking my dog before we started this. I was like, holy fucking shit. This time last year we were recording our episode for Trap.
That's
uh,
true.
yeah, it's
Yep.
fucking wild.
Yep.
Jesus Christ. I need to get better at putting these out faster. Uh, but that's on me. I just, I I'm stupid and I decide that I want to try and have a life outside of, creating content. How foolish of me.
How dare you?
I know. Well, thank you to everyone who listened. We really enjoy having these conversations, and hopefully you enjoy listening to them. For the Johnny Horror podcast, I'm Johnny Horror, my co-host Kalen Behrman. We really appreciate you guys, and we look forward to seeing you motherfuckers on the flip side. Adios, muchachos.
Peace.